They tried to silence us.
But we will not be silenced. Bienvenidos a Bus Sports. Me llamo Sandy Pisine.
And I'm Shapalicious.
Welcome to the big show.
And rest in power, Pam Bondi.
Start by breaking Diana Walker, Kennedy Sanders, and Jade Cook are returning to the Colorado.
Colorado women's basketball program.
Walker was an all Big 12 honorable mention and all defensive selection, while Sanders averaged 9 points across 10 games before season-ending hip surgery. Meanwhile, the men's basketball team is treading water as Sebastian Rankic and Bangat Dak announced their intention to hit the transfer portal. Rankic averaged over 12 points and 6 rebounds per game on 40% shooting in his second year as a Buff. Dak also made his size felt, bringing down 6.5 rebounds per game with 11.5 points. Alongside the transfer of Isaiah Johnson announced last week, only 2 starters remain in black and gold. For an outlook on Tad Boyle's depleted squad, here's Oliver and Matt with Buff Banter.
Banner, I'm Matt Spivak alongside Oliver Hayes, and today we're going to be talking about the Colorado men's basketball team and some recent news in the transfer portal, or soon to be in the transfer portal, are some of the players as they announced. Forwards Bangat Dak, Sebastian Rankic, and guard Isaiah Johnson all announced they will be entering the transfer portal. Some good news though, as guard Barrington Hargress did announce he will be staying here at Colorado for his senior season. What are your thoughts on that news, and what does Isaiah Johnson's departure really mean for this program?
Well, I mean, to get into all the decisions of those 4 players, that's a whole lot. That's why we have a whole segment for that. So we get into, Bangat Dak, Rankic, Barrington Hargress, what that means for the program down the line. But focusing specifically on Isaiah, what a huge loss for the Buffs. A freshman, a young dude, the potential that he has for his collegiate career, it's insurmountable. What he showed this season as a Buffs leading scorer, averaging nearly 17 points per game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Could have been better on the defensive end, but was manageable, averaged a steal a game. He was what the Buffs wanted to keep around and build around going forward into next season and potentially after that. But with a guy like Isaiah, he could have been in the NBA after next season. So, don't know how much in the future he would have stuck around, but obviously a huge hit for the Buffaloes. You have to wonder about why he would enter the transfer portal because of what he would have here in Colorado. It's hard to imagine he would find a better role than 30 minutes per game, having the ball in his hands at the end of games. But with the reported numbers around spending and things, even though the Buffs reportedly offered a competitive offer to Isaiah Johnson, he had to take his talents elsewhere.
Yeah, like you mentioned, for a guy that showed so much potential, it really is a hit to the team morale, and it's going to be hard for some of the players to rally around not having him next year. Obviously, we're expecting for him to be maybe the face of this program for the next season, maybe 2 incoming, depending, as you said, his draft status. But unfortunately, that won't be the case here at Colorado, and there's going to be some guys who were here that are going to have to step up, and some guys that maybe Colorado, Tad Boyle and his staff are going to look out to go get either in the transfer portal or new freshmen. But now let's take it to the other news from the transfer portal. Obviously, we mentioned Rankic and Dak both are moving or planning on moving. Which of those moves is more surprising for you, or more of a worry for this team?
I mean, it's really hard to say. I think in terms of the hits to the team and what they mean, they're kind of neck and neck, both as talented forwards. Obviously different players, but kind of similar skill sets as versatile, mobile forwards at 6'11" and 7 foot. But I think that's Sebastian Rankic in terms of what, maybe not what will be missed, but in terms of what Buffs fans could potentially be upset about seeing at another school. I think Sebastian Rankic has more of a chance to pop at another school, I guess, than Bangat Dak is what I'm trying to say. We've seen the talent that has come through Colorado. You look at Tristan Silva, a tall guy who has shot the ball well, who's kind of versatile. And the Buffs fans also seen Nick Clifford, a taller, a forward who's a little bit shorter than Sebastian Rankic, but can shoot the ball, who can get downhill, who can affect the game in an all-around way that Rankic can. And so I just think with, kind of the ghosts of Nick Clifford with how he turned out at Colorado State, a similar player in Rankic with the talent and potential that he holds, set to be a junior next year. I think that could potentially be, that worries me with what Buffs fans may wish they had. looking at next year?
Yeah, obviously both guys are gonna. There's production to be made up from both guys, whichever way you slice it. I'm gonna go the other direction. I'll go with Bangat Dak. Just his size on the defensive end. Although Colorado's defense was not great, he was one of their best players in that interior on the defensive end, and that's something that's really going to be missed, and something that the Buffs are going to need to go out and get a tall guy that can guard, play that 5 position and guard 4s and 5s in this tough Big 12 conference. So yeah, I'm definitely going to lean towards Dak on being, a little bit more worrisome. Heading into, our final question, now with the Ranchich and Johnson and everybody leaving, there's some more money on the table for this Colorado team. Where do you see that spending going?
Well, yeah, the big thing is that with Barrington Hargress, like you mentioned earlier, him planning to stay, the Buffs and new athletic director Fernando Lova, the athletic department, is planning to double the spending for the men's basketball team. That's what I was able to report, and Joe Tipton reported for On 3. And so with those moves going forward, I think that while Isaiah, his move is irreplaceable, and fans, can be upset about missing Ranchik and Dak and what that will do for the front court. I think with the money that is there, like you said, and the plans to double the money, now the Buffs can do some things. They already have one scholarship spot open, and they've paid, they seemingly, have paid Hargress. It seems like Ian Inman, Josiah Sanders, Jalen Holland, they're going to stick around. I wouldn't imagine that they had to have gotten paid too much to return. So I'd imagine that if there's only one player that they're going to spend money on in the transfer portal, that's going to be a heck of a hit, ain't it? So I'm really excited to see what the Buffs can do in the transfer portal with all that money and the plans that they have. And, with the Buffs losing in the Crown to the Oklahoma, we didn't get this, there's, I guess that's irrelevant at this point. The portal was opening on April 7th regardless, and the Crown was ending before that. But players could enter the transfer portal that played in the Crown. And so the more scholarship spots could open up, and trying to replace Bangat Dak and Sebastian Ranch, it could be through multiple players. And depending on how much that money looks like, the Buffs could potentially see upgrades from Ranchik and Dak. But, only time will tell. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. The transfer portal is looking nice with, the amount of money that we have. I'm not sure. Do you know how much it is, or we're not totally sure?
It's always hard to tell, because with Colorado, they don't have the they passed that bill where the NIL isn't available for the public. So from what I've seen, it's just like it's public records requests that other journalists have gotten, where it's been total spending from programs and just kind of reporting numbers, but I haven't seen a specific thing for the Buffaloes out. From what I know, it was towards the bottom of the Power 4 or Power 5, depending on if you count the Big East in that, but towards the bottom of Power conferences.
Yeah, but either way, they're looking at that transfer portal, and I'm expecting them to, like you said, get a big hit out of the transfer portal with the money that they have. And hopefully they don't spend too much, as you said, trying to keep the players on their roster, and they can look to spending that money elsewhere, whether it is a transfer portal or another, talented freshman in Isaiah Johnson that, they can somehow find that would, work out well for the team too. That's all I had. You have anything else to add for Buff Banner?
I mean, get excited. That's what I would say, because a lot of fans look at this and they see three of the four best players hitting the portal, and it's easy to get your morale down. But I think with Fernando Lovo coming in the door and the plans that they've announced, and Hargress wanting to stay and knowing that he wants to win in his senior year, I think that bodes well for Buffs fans. So that's all I got to offer.
All right, well, that's this week's Buff Banner. I'm Matt Spivak with Oliver Hayes, and we'll send it back to you guys at the desk.
The men's basketball season came to an end after a 90-86 overtime loss to Oklahoma in the first round of the college basketball Crown Tournament. If you haven't heard of the Crown Tournament, it's the worst part of a Vegas vacation. Junior guard Barrington Hargress led the way with a season-high 31 points. The Buffs also got key contributions from Alan Michael and Felix Casarias as they built an early first-half lead. But Oklahoma whipped it out in the second half, with multiple players scoring in double figures and carrying that momentum into overtime. Tad and the Tadpoles turned their attention to the offseason, where they can enjoy watching the Colorado Rockies suck.
It's time for this week's trivia question. Following the men's basketball team's elimination from the Crown Tournament, we ask you, which team eliminated them from the last college basketball crown last year? Stay tuned for the answer later in the show. What a neighbor. Saturday, women's lacrosse opened Big 12 play with a big fat W against the San Diego State Aztecs. The Buffs pulled away early in the second period and never took their foot off the gas, winning 16-5. Maybe SDSU should stick to boxing movies as their alma mater of Carl Weathers, aka Apollo Creed. Both Lily Assini and Maddie Shoup achieved major career milestones, surpassing the century mark in career goals. Trip Malden has more.
What is up, Buff fans? Trip Malden here with Skull Buff Sports. I'm here at Prentup Field where your Colorado Buffaloes just defeated the SDSU Aztecs 16-5 in their Big 12 home opener. All right, with this win, the Buffaloes now go 5-0 on home turf, remaining undefeated. This was a huge game for the Buffaloes to start out their Big 12 opener in such a dominant fashion. Dominating that entire second half of the game. And it was also a big game for two players in particular, Lily Assini and Maddie Shoup, both of which scored their 100th career points this game. So, a huge game for the Buffaloes and a huge win to send them off on their way on their now away streak.
This is the second week in a row that C-U has had two big players. Big 12 Player of the Week awards, that is. Senior defender Jess Peluso secured Draw Specialist of the Week, and senior midfielder Lily Assani earned Midfielder of the Week for the Buffs. Also of note, Elena O was not selected for Goaltender of the Week. This time, the first time this season in the conference that someone else has earned the title after 7 straight weeks of her ranking in the honors.
Tomorrow, the Buffs are heading down to Gainesville to take on the number 5 ranked Florida Gators. The Buffs enter on a 3-game hot streak and hope to carry that flame to upset the Gators. They'll fight for their first ever win over Florida. After upsetting number 2 Northwestern to start the season, Saturday is shaping up to be a major test for the Buffs, as well as for 5-time Big 12 Goalie of the Week, Elena O. The Gators currently have the highest scoring offense in the Big 12. First draw is set for, just kidding, I won't tell. Patience for rapid fire is a virtue.
The Buffs head down south to face non-conference Jacksonville University from the Atlantic Sun Conference. Sitting at 8-3, a staggering 7-0 at home, the Dolphins will provide another tough matchup for Colorado. First draw is set for none of your business.
CU's football.
I'm William Howard here alongside Xavier McNevis. We just wrapped up at the CU Pro Day, watching a lot of guys out here competing, trying to make themselves a case to make an NFL roster. There was also a CFL scout here for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, so lots of opportunities for those guys. But start with this question, Xavier. Who stood out to you today and why?
Yeah, I'm going to say Xavier Hill stood out 100%. He's 6'3", 350 pounds. Offensive line. This guy jumped 30 inches in the air. He ran a 5 flat. I mean, I would hate to see a 350-pound man running that speed at me. I think any NFL linebacker is used to it, but would also hate that as well. So Xavier Hill really impressed, and I think he's a really versatile guard, and he played tackle and guard, and he said in the presser that he had been getting snaps through his training. So I think Xavier Hill was definitely the most impressive today.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that could even bring up is the potential of, maybe if you're looking at field goal block units in the NFL, something like that, that's a place where he could fit up on that line. If you're jumping 30 inches in the air with that type of build, I think that's something that NFL teams could certainly look at. I'm going to look at the skill position. Sincere Brown really impressed me today. He ran a 4.38 unofficial, but a 4.38 40 today. That's something that jumped off the page to a lot of people. I think that that's a guy who could make an NFL camp, especially with that time, if that does prove to be official. I mean, the Denver Broncos are one team that I think of. Of course, the local team, they like to look to see you a lot for undrafted free agents, and I think that that's one way he could potentially go. And then if he's not going to go to an NFL team, if he doesn't get a preseason invite or a training camp invite, something like that, there are certainly other leagues, like I mentioned, the CFL was here, the UFL are potential options that would love to have a 4.38 speed guy coming out of Colorado. So he really impressed me, and I think he just made himself some money by the performance he had today. Yeah. But there were so many guys that there were definitely some guys who did not quite live up to what they were hoping, at least for today. Was there any guy that to you would have hoped to see a little bit more from?
Yeah, I mean, from the offensive line, I think Zy Chrysler was definitely the one that I would like to see a little bit more from. He didn't have the most impressive testing most impressive measurements. And I also would have liked to see Amari McNeil more. He didn't jump. He didn't do a lot of the things. He just did the 3-cone drill and a lot of the change of direction drills. I would like to see a lot from Amari McNeil, especially because he had been with the Buffs for a few years now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to agree with you there. I think that Amari McNeil absolutely could have put more on the field today. I think that was the case for a lot of these Buffs coming in. Obviously, with the season that they had and none of these guys currently being projected in really any experts mock drafts, this was kind of at a point where, these guys needed to put everything on the field that they could. And so to come in, I feel like, if you're not battling an injury, there's no reason that you shouldn't be running the 40, that you shouldn't be doing whatever you could to put something on film for these NFL scouts. Because, of course, there were 28 NFL teams here. So that's a lot of opportunities. That's a lot of eyes looking at you, even if they're just looking at you as a preseason training camp body. That is still an opportunity in the NFL. So I would think if I personally had the season that the Buffs had and then was coming out here, I'd want to put everything on the field that I could. And, yeah, he was not on the field very much today. So that was one thing I was definitely a little disappointed in. And then Zy Chrysler, he also had during his 40-yard dash, he had an injury, which was unfortunate to see. Kind of seems like, and then he wasn't a very heavy participant after that, so that's unfortunate for him, as well as the sort of lackluster testing he had at the start of the day. But looking at Xavier Hill, I know you were really impressed with him in terms of his future. Where's a place you see him fitting in?
Honestly, I think any NFL team could really use a guy like him just for depth because he's versatile. Like I said, he played tackle, he played guard. He said in the presser that teams are looking more at interior for him, but I think today he proved his athleticism, and he's proved that he can play on tape. I mean, he's a fifth-year grown man, senior, and I think he's a good plug and play. And honestly, I can't really name one NFL team that he could be on, but I think I'm taking the cop-out answer here. I think he can be a really good depth piece for any NFL team for sure.
Yeah, I mentioned Sincere Brown and a potential option to move to the Denver Broncos or something like that. But one guy I also kind of want to talk about a little bit is Caden Salter. He actually really impressed in the jumping drills today. He had the longest broad jump of anyone on the team, which was really impressive. He had a very nice vertical, and then his 40 time was a 4.63, so not maybe a little slower than he would have hoped, but he definitely opened his options up as potentially a receiver at some level. He showed his athleticism today, and I think that was something a lot of the scouts were impressed with. I was kind of hearing murmurs about that from a lot of the guys. So that's something that he could be looked at for. And then at the quarterback position, one of the very few scouts that was standing out watching his throwing drills very intently was the Hamilton Tiger Cats scout from the CFL. He certainly fits the mold of a CFL quarterback, someone who's mobile, someone who can't, it's a bigger field. It's a lot faster paced. So he is a guy who fits that mold. And I think that he could potentially make the move there if they can get him adapted to that type of game, and he showed it with his athleticism today. So lots of guys who really put on a show today, and it's a lot of volume for the Buffs here. They're known for every year having at least one undrafted free agent who sticks, makes a roster. So it'll be interesting to see if there is one of those guys from this team, or if a guy can somehow sneak into the draft, maybe a late round pick. So that is going to be all here from CU's Pro Day. For ScoBuff Sports, I am Liam Howard alongside Xavier McNevitz. You heard it here first.
Thanks, Xavier and Liam. It's good to see those NFL hopefuls in action. Sorry, Steve.
Last Friday and Saturday, Colorado's track team went up to Fort Collins for, you guessed it, a track meet. Danny Tragars finished the men's 400-meter hurdle in just over 50 seconds, ranking 4th in CU history. In the distance event, Linda Weigang won the women's 5,000-meter run in nearly 17 and a half minutes, with fellow Buffs Bianna Winchell and Georgia Bell finishing in 2nd and 3rd respectively. C-U also won the men's 4x4 100-meter relay with Tegan Malcolm, Luke Drive, Jordan Ball, and Nick Gehring finishing with a time of 3 minutes 16 seconds. This Saturday, the team will hit Pottsfield for a classic honoring Jerry Queeler, who I'm telling my grandkids had Colorado track in its prime, while the distance runners will travel to Stanford for, you guessed it, the Stanford Invitational.
Nothing happened to tennis this week because Colby hates us. Just kidding, as the Buffs fell in their lone match of this past week to the number 30 ranked Texas Tech. The Red Raiders blanked Colorado 4-0 on the score sheet. CU is currently competing with Arizona in Tucson and head to Tempe on Sunday to face Walter Cronkite's Sun Devils. Then on Thursday, the Buffs will bask in the glory of tennis's greatest all-time venue, Meadows Club, to face Baylor.
Welcome to Folsom Feud. I'm your host, Colby, here with 3 contestants today, Lincoln, Balin, and Kieran. Lincoln, start us off.
I'll take game day etiquette for 200.
All right. This is the best way to show respect during the CU fight song.
What is standing, singing loud, and raising your hand in the hook 'em horn sign?
Not what we're looking for. Balin, you have an answer?
What is stand up, sing loud, and do the Ralphie horns?
Correct. Balin, the board is yours.
Give me tailgate traditions for 400.
All right, here's the answer. The must-have item to wear on game day to show your Buff pride. Kieran?
What is black and gold?
That's correct. Nothing says school spirit like those 2 colors. Choose the next one.
Let's do fan etiquette for 600.
Fan etiquette. The proper response when you hear someone yell, "Go Buffs."
What is skull, Buffs?
Skull Buffs is right. Looks like we've got some true Buffs fans here. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to our contestants, and see you next time.
The women's golfers are set to begin their last tournament of the regular season before the Big 12 Championship. Colorado will travel to Napa, California over the weekend to compete in the Chevron Silverado Showdown. The 3-day tournament starts on Monday and concludes on Wednesday. The Buffs are currently ranked number 48 in the nation and look to move up in the rankings heading into the Big 12 Championship, starting on April 23rd. Don't drink too much wine, ladies.
For fans of the name Wally, the men's golfers finished tied for 8th place at the Wally Goodwin Intercollegiate in Palo Alto, California this past weekend. The Buffs shot 5 strokes over par in Silicon Valley, sitting in a tie with the Utah Utes. The host squad, Stanford Cardinal, took first place with a score of 17 strokes under par. Graduate Jackson Rivera, not to be confused with SBS member Jackie Rivera, was the only Buff to shoot under par. He finished 2 strokes under, good for 19th place. The Buffs will be back in action at the Thunderbird Intercollegiate on April 10th in Phoenix.
The CU Sluggers are set to return to conference action this weekend against Air Force. The club is coming off their first series loss of the 2026 season last weekend against Nebraska, which saw a literal fight on the field. Can we talk about that? The Cornhuskers beat the corn out of CU in the final game to win the series off a run rule. This weekend, the Buffs and Falcons meet with 2 undefeated conference records, making this weekend vital for regional tournament implications. Game 1 is Saturday with games 2 and 3 on Sunday. Every game will be streamed right here on ScoBuff Sports YouTube channel.
Make sure you like and subscribe. The Buffs Club men's lacrosse team has had some up and downs since spring break, facing a slew of different teams. They fell to Florida before a solid win over number 16 ranked Chapman. CU got knocked back down, however, after a tough loss to SDSU, but then beat California Polytechnic Institute and Boise State. Next up is a trip to the Beehive State as the Buffs travel to take on both Utah Tech and Utah. They'll then come back to Boulder on Thursday to face their biggest challenge yet, the number 2 ranked BYU Cougars. A lot of Utah.
Women's lacrosse are protecting their necks right now. Currently ranked 3rd with an overall record of 3-3, Colorado has proven to be assassins on both ends of the field. The Buffs secured key wins against Colorado State, Utah, and Utah Valley, home to a beautiful amphitheater. Leading the charge is top scorer attacker Livia Clanian, whose playmaking has been crucial to Colorado's success this season. Now with just 2 games remaining, the Black and Gold are looking to finish strong. Colorado takes on Brigham Young this Friday, followed by a matchup with Utah State on Saturday. Don't miss the action this weekend as they wrap up their season.
Number 1, I think we know where this is going. It's Isaiah Johnson. And the deck attack! Washington, they got Dak going up the left side. He goes there for the slam with 2 hands. The Dak attack strikes again, doing what he does best. Alley-oop from Barrington Hargress and a slam by Bangot Dak. We got a slam from Bangot Dak. What can he not do? Long pass out here to Bangot Dak, who slams it down with 2 hands. Now for number 1 now, it's over to Isaiah Johnson. And the Dak attack! a monster slam for Bangot Dak. I can't go a week without saying Dak Attack here on this show. Since Isaiah Johnson, he's going to hang on to it himself, going out to his left, finally driving up court, alley-oop, and the Dak Attack!
Here we see Xavier McNevitz working on his reader for the live show. If we didn't have these readers done by Thursday night, chances are we would not be airing this show right now. Be like Xavier. Get your readers done. And don't forget to click save so that you don't lose any of your hard-earned work.
Good evening, Buffs fans, and welcome to Rapid Fire, the place where I'm going to go over all of the games over this weekend. Should be some action-packed stuff. Starting off, track and field, it is the Jerry Quiller Classic all day Saturday. Because of the high winds today, all the events got pushed to Saturday, so from 10 a.m. to about 4 p.m. it's going to be non-stop track and field action. Colorado's best will be getting after it. And then baseball, 3-game series for the Buffaloes up against the Air Force Falcons. Air Force and Colorado are first and second in the Mid-America West Division respectively. Going to be a huge series. CU is coming off of a tough series loss against Nebraska, looking to get some revenge against Air Force. Then women's club lacrosse up against Utah State Saturday at 2 p.m. They are 3-3 on the regular season, looking to finish off at 4-3. They're up against Utah State, who is 1-5 on the year. Last home game for the Buffs should be really fun stuff. That will be streamed live on ScoBuff Sports. Then finally, NCAA lacrosse. Colorado is ranked and they are up against number 5 Florida at home at 10 a.m. The Buffs have beaten a top 5 ranked team so far this season, looking to do it again up against the Gators. Should be really good stuff coming this weekend. Harrison and Lincoln, back to you guys.
Much obliged, Big P. It's time for the answer to this week's trivia question. Earlier, we asked you which team violently eliminated the Buffs from last year's college basketball crown tournament. And the answer is, drumroll please, Villanova. The Nerds from Philly routed Colorado 85-64 in the first ever crown tournament.
Instead of tweet of the week, we have some exciting news. This live show will be the last one that's free in ScoBuff Sports history. Per our Instagram, we're proud to announce ScoBuff Sports Plus for the low price of $34.99 per month. You can purchase the Roach tier, where you'll get all SBS content. It includes every episode of Folsom Feud, our wonderful stand-ups, and exclusive elevator picks. Available on iOS and Android. Purchase the ScoBuff Sports app today. Well, Harrison, it looks like we have an appointment to get to.
Where, in fact?
I think we got to get to Buckingham Hall here.
Well, see you soon, Jake.
For now, though, rest easy, viewer.
And we'll see you in...
Yeah.
You'll see you in Valhalla.
And you heard it here first.